Uh, Thursday. Not someday, not soon, not in the vague, unspecified future where most promises about change tend to live and quietly dissolve without ever becoming real. Thursday. And what arrives on Thursday does not come through a text message or a phone call or the kind of informal, easily deniable channel that people use when they want to communicate something without fully committing to having communicated it. What arrives comes through someone whose entire professional existence is built around the formal, the documented, the irrevocable. A lawyer. Put everything down, because what I am about to reveal has been building in the background of your life for longer than you know, through channels you were not watching, toward a conclusion you were not told was coming, until right now. I almost did not know how to begin this one. Not because the message was unclear, the opposite. It arrived with the specific, almost aggressive clarity of something that has been waiting too long to be delivered and is no longer interested in being patient about the delivery. It arrived with names, with a sequence, with the particular quality of information that has a shape to it, a before and after, a clear line between what you did not know and what you are about to know. I sat with it for a long time before pressing record, because what I am holding for you today is not an impression or a theme or an energetic probability. It is a timeline. And the timeline has a specific date attached to it that I cannot ignore and am not willing to soften into something more ambiguous just because precision makes people nervous. Thursday. It is already in motion. Let me tell you what I am seeing, because the image is not abstract. It is a scene, specific, framed, already playing out in the world you cannot yet fully see from where you are standing. A figure in formal clothing, not the casual dress of someone who has dropped by informally, the specific, intentional clothing of someone who is appearing in a professional capacity, who has prepared for this interaction, who carries something with them, physical or digital, that has weight in the legal sense of the word, documentation, evidence, the formal artifact of something that has been concluded or decided or resolved in a space that you were not present in. This person has been tasked with finding you, not in the alarming sense, in the specific professional sense of someone whose job requires them to locate a particular individual and deliver a particular communication. They know where to find you. They have already established that. What has been happening in the days leading up to Thursday is the final preparation of what they are bringing. The last details being confirmed. The last signatures being placed where they need to be placed before the thing can be officially handed forward. It is ready, and you are the recipient. I need to speak to what this communication actually contains, because the title promises everything, and I intend to deliver it. There is a matter that was set in motion by someone else, not by you. You were not the initiating party in whatever this is. This originated elsewhere in the decisions or the actions or the legal maneuvering of another person or another set of people, and it has been moving through its own process in its own time frame without your direct involvement or your full awareness of its progress. What Thursday represents is the moment that process reaches you. The moment it stops being something happening somewhere else and becomes something happening directly in your life, delivered by hand, requiring your attention and your response and your full, clear-headed engagement with what has just changed. For some of you, this is financial. something involving property or an estate or money that was held somewhere in a formal arrangement and has now reached the point of transfer, an inheritance that is finally moving, a settlement that has been concluded, a claim that was made on your behalf by someone acting in your interest that has now produced a result that belongs to you. The number is not small. I want to say that clearly and without qualification. What is being delivered is not a token. It is not a technicality or a formality that produces something symbolic. It has material weight. It changes what is available to you in a concrete, practical, daily life kind of way that you are going to feel immediately and continue feeling. For others of you, this is legal protection, something that was threatening your stability, your security, your peace, your rights has been addressed formally by someone who was working to address it in a space you were not watching. And the result of that work is arriving on Thursday with the specific finality of something that has been decided by a process that does not easily reverse its decisions. You are protected. In a way you did not know you were being protected, in a way that someone worked to make happen without requiring your constant awareness of the working. And the arrival of this lawyer is the formal notification that the protection is now real and documented and enforceable in a way that it was not before Thursday. Whatever was threatening you has now encountered something more substantial than itself and lost. I want to stay in this territory for a moment longer because there is something underneath the legal protection piece that I feel is important to name directly. The thing that was threatening you did not stop because you found a way to defend yourself against it personally. It stopped because something more formal than your individual resistance was brought to bear on it, and that distinction matters for how you carry this going forward. There is a specific exhaustion that comes from having been in a position of needing to defend something that should never have required defending, of having had to spend energy protecting what was already legitimately yours simply because someone decided to challenge it through a process you had not anticipated and were not fully equipped for in the moment it began. That exhaustion has been real. It has been sitting in your shoulders and in your sleep and in the low-level background hum of someone who is technically functioning but carrying more than their baseline load requires. What Thursday delivers is not just the formal resolution of a specific matter. It is permission to put that weight down. The defending is over. What needed to be established has been established through a process that carries more authority than any individual person's persistence could produce. And the permission to stop defending it, to simply receive what has been decided and move forward without the continuous rearguard action of protecting what is yours, is itself a form of relief that has no exact monetary equivalent. It is the relief of finally being able to turn around. Let me speak to the third possibility because I feel it present for a portion of you and it carries its own specific quality of significance. For some of you, this is about rights, something belonging to you, a credit, a recognition, an attribution, a percentage, a formal acknowledgement of your contribution to something that was shared or taken or minimized or claimed by someone who did not have the right to claim it has been formally restored. What was taken from you in ways that felt impossible to address because the taking was done through channels too official or too powerful or too well organized for you to fight individually has now been addressed by someone operating through those same official channels on your behalf. The restoration does not erase the taking. It does not undo the time lost or the energy spent or the specific exhaustion of having watched something that was yours being held by someone else while you had insufficient power to reclaim it. But it makes it right in the specific, documented, formally recognized way that only the legal process can make something right. Not emotionally, practically, with a paper trail that cannot be argued with, and a conclusion that does not depend on anyone's memory or good faith or willingness to do the right thing voluntarily. It was made right anyway, through a process that did not require their cooperation. I want to speak to who has been working on your behalf in all of this, because someone has, not a stranger, not someone who became involved in your situation randomly or through professional obligation alone, someone who took what was happening to you or around you personally, who felt the injustice of it in a way that motivated something beyond the ordinary professional engagement with a case or a matter. They cared about the outcome for you specifically, and that caring produced something in the quality of their work that is visible in what is being delivered on Thursday. The thoroughness of it, the completeness, the fact that nothing was left unaddressed or left for you to figure out on your own after the initial delivery. Everything that needed to be assembled was assembled. Every thread that could strengthen what is being brought to you was followed and incorporated. Someone did this right because they cared that you received what you deserved. And you are about to see the result of that care in its completed form. Someone did this right because they cared that you received what you deserved. And you are about to see the result of that care in its completed form. I want to say something about what it means that someone cared in this way. Because I think Virgo, in the particular way that Virgos process their own experiences, tends to minimize the significance of being cared for by others, to file it quickly under gratitude and then move on without fully absorbing the weight of what it means that someone chose to show up for you in a formal, sustained, effortful way. Let this one land. Someone decided that what was happening to you mattered enough to do something about it through channels that required real effort and real time and real investment of professional capital. They did not observe what was happening to you and feel bad about it and then return to their own life. They acted specifically, carefully, in the direction of your well-being. That kind of showing up is rare, and the result of it arriving on Thursday deserves to be received with the full awareness of how it came to be, not just what it delivers, but who made it possible. That awareness is its own form of abundance. Let me describe what Thursday actually feels like. Not the legal content of what arrives, the human experience of receiving it. There is going to be a moment of not immediately understanding the full implications where the initial information lands, and you comprehend the surface of it before the depth of it has fully registered. A moment where your Virgo mind begins to process and organize and categorize what it is receiving, while some deeper part of you is still catching up to the fact that this is real, this is actually happening, this is not a possibility or a hope, but a concrete, present, material reality. And then the depth registers. And something in your chest does something that is not quite any single emotion, but a complex of several simultaneously. Relief, yes, but something underneath the relief that is harder to name. The specific, very particular feeling of having been held in mind by a process you were not fully tracking, of having been the subject of work being done on your behalf in spaces you did not have access to, of not having been forgotten. Whatever the content of what arrives, that feeling is the true heart of the Thursday experience. The understanding that something in the formal, documented, real world has moved in your direction without you having to fight for every inch of it alone. Does this connect to something specific in your life? A situation involving legal matters, financial arrangements, property, rights, or formal processes that has been in some state of suspension or unresolved waiting. Something that originated outside of you and has been moving through its own process at its own pace without your full visibility into where it stood. Tell me in the comments, not the details, just whether this is landing where I think it is landing. I want to know how many of you felt Thursday arrive in your chest before your mind had finished processing why. I want to address something that I feel is important to name before we go any further. Some of you have given up on this. Whatever the specific situation is that this reading is speaking to, the formal matter that has been in process, you have been carrying the weight of hoping for something from it that kept not arriving on any timeline you could plan around. And at a certain point, somewhere in the long stretch of waiting with no clear signal of progress, hope became something you could no longer afford to maintain at full volume. You managed it down quietly without making a production of it. In that Virgo way of adjusting your internal reality to match what the external evidence is giving you, protecting yourself from the specific exhaustion of continuing to invest emotionally in something that keeps not resolving. What I want to say to that version of you, the one who stopped expecting, is this. You were not wrong to protect yourself. The protection was appropriate to how long the waiting had been. But the thing you stopped expecting did not stop happening simply because you stopped expecting it. The process continued in its own time, in its own space, moving toward Thursday with or without your active anticipation. Thursday does not require your hope to be real. It is real regardless. Let me speak to the broader meaning of this moment, because I do not think the lawyer and the formal communication are the full extent of what Thursday represents. I think they are the most visible expression of something larger that is shifting in the structure of your life. There is a clearing happening, not the kind that requires your active effort or your conscious intention or your spiritual work or anything that puts the responsibility of the shift on something you need to do. A structural clearing, the kind where things that have been in the wrong position, that have been occupying space in your life incorrectly, that have been consuming resources and energy in the background while producing nothing that actually serves you, are being formally resolved and therefore formally released. Thursday is the legal dimension of that clearing. But it is not the only dimension. There are others, less formal, less documented, but equally real in their effect on what becomes available to you as the clearing continues. Relationships whose dynamics shift when the material circumstances shift. Conversations that become possible once the legal matter is no longer sitting between you and the clarity you need to have them. Decisions that you have been holding in suspension because the formal situation needed to resolve before you could make them cleanly All of that begins to move on Thursday. Not all of it resolves on Thursday, but the movement begins. And movement after a long period of suspension has a momentum of its own that tends to continue once it starts. I want to speak to what you do with this when it arrives, because receiving formal, legal, material information requires a particular quality of response that I want to make sure you bring to it. Read everything, all of it. Every line, every clause, every piece of documentation that accompanies what is delivered. Your Virgo mind is built for this. Your capacity to read carefully, to notice what is and what is not included, to register the precise details that carry the most weight, is one of your greatest assets in this moment. Do not rush the reading to get to the conclusion. The conclusion is important, but the path to it, the specific terms and conditions and implications of what is being formally delivered, matters as much as the headline number or the central finding. And if anything in the reading produces a question that the delivery alone cannot answer, ask it. Before you sign anything, before you formally acknowledge receipt of anything that has ongoing implications, ask the question, get the clarity, make sure what you are taking into your life is fully understood by you before it becomes fully yours. You have the right to understand everything. Exercise it. There is a final image that has been present throughout this entire reading, and I want to describe it now because I think it is the truest thing in all of it. I see a scale, the old kind, the kind with two pans suspended from a central point that tips toward whatever is heavier. For a long time in the situation this reading is describing, the scale tipped away from you. Not because you were wrong, not because what was on your side of it was insufficient, but because the weight on the other side was formally organized in a way that yours was not yet, because process and documentation and the specific formal power of legal arrangement was sitting on the side that was not yours. Thursday puts something on your side of the scale, something with real weight, formal weight, the kind that does not shift back easily once it has been placed. And the scale tips not all the way necessarily, not into the territory of everything being resolved and perfect and simple from this point forward, but visibly, undeniably, in a direction that changes what the balance of the situation looks like from here. You will feel that tipping in your chest, in your shoulders, in the specific quality of a breath that goes a little deeper than the breaths have been going lately. That breath is Thursday arriving. Let it in. That is what Spirit brought through today. Not vague, not impressionistic. A date, a figure, a delivery, and a shift that has been building in the official background of your life without your full awareness. Thursday, it is already on its way to you. Be there to receive it.